It's 1813 in London's high society, where ladies are supposed to be sweet, gentle, and perfect. But somehow, the most perfect lady in town went from this to this. Yeah, I don't know why that happened either. Fists aside, fellas, today we're covering the story of Bridgerton, that one show where the tea is hot, but the scandals are even hotter. Let's get right into it. Episode 1 starts with the social season in London, which means that rich families are showing off their daughters at the palace, praying that someone proposes to them. Yikes. Talking about all the drama is Lady Whistledown, a secret gossip writer who knows everything, and she's not afraid to tell it like it is.
Dearest reader, the time has come to place our bets.
Anyway, we're following two families in the area of Grosvenor Square, the Featheringtons and the Bridgertons. The Featheringtons are struggling socially and are desperately trying to marry off their 3 daughters before everyone figures out that they're broke. Meanwhile, the Bridgertons are the exact opposite. They're respected, wealthy, and have 8 kids. Wow, all named alphabetically because their dad is kind of a geek. We then meet Daphne, our main character. She's the eldest daughter in the Bridgerton family, and it's her first time trying to find a husband. At the royal presentation, the Featherington girls go first, and it's a disaster. First, they bump into each other trying to squeeze through the door at once. One of them even faints from her tight corset. Then, Daphne steps forward, and Queen Charlotte kisses her forehead. That's the 1813 version of the Queen reposting your story on Instagram and declaring you her favorite. Seeing this, you'd think Daphne would have her pick of husbands, right? Wrong. Her overprotective brother and head of the family, Anthony Bridgerton, is sabotaging her chances at getting hitched. At the ball, suitors line up to meet Daphne, and Anthony scares off every single one. Anthony has an issue with them all. In Anthony's eyes, nobody's good enough for his little sister. Aww. Funny how he's so focused on arranging Daphne's love life when his own is a complete mess. But we'll get into that disaster later. For now, let's focus on the present, because someone interesting has arrived in London, and he's none other than Simon Bassett. Simon is the Duke of Hastings, and he's the most eligible bachelor around. He's rich, handsome, and charming as hell. His plan in London was simple: settle his estate and leave just as fast as he came. But Lady Danbury, his godmother, dragged him to the ball, and suddenly mothers are swarming him with their daughters. Problem is, Simon has zero interest in marriage. At the ball, Daphne, the queen's favorite, meets Simon while running from Lord Bearbrook, an older suitor who just won't leave her alone. She tries hiding behind him, but Simon assumes she's just another girl scheming to trap a duke. Almost immediately, Anthony, Daphne's overprotective brother, shows up. He recognizes his old friend from Oxford and immediately gets suspicious about Simon being anywhere near his sister. The situation reaches a breaking point at Vauxhall Gardens. Anthony tells Daphne he's decided she's marrying Lord Bearbrook, her old suitor, and Daphne sneaks away to the gardens to get some space. Lord Bearbrook follows Daphne into a dark path and corners her. He thinks he has the upper hand until Daphne... Yeah, that happens. When Lord Bearbrook wakes up, still trying to propose, Daphne gets so desperate that she's actually considering it. But who can blame her? She's losing her status as the favorite, her brother has chased everyone else away, and unlike men, she can't just choose to stay single. That's when Simon proposes they fake date each other. With that, he'll look unavailable, so ambitious mothers will back off. At the same time, Daphne will become instantly desirable because if a duke wants her, every other man will too.
I don't blame you. Damn good deal.
Together, they walk back into the party and dance, while the entire ballroom watches. Lady Whistledown closes the episode, promising to figure out what just happened between them. Episode 2 gives us Simon's tragic backstory, and I need you to buckle up because it's rough. When little Simon developed a stammer as a kid, his father disowned him and treated him like he didn't exist.
You are my worst failure.
Wow, Simon's father's broken. The only person who gave a damn was Lady Danbury, bless her soul. She became the mother figure he desperately needed and helped him overcome his speech issues. Fast forward years later, and Simon's dad is on his deathbed. In most movies you've watched, this is where the terrible father finally apologizes and has that tearful, "I was wrong" moment, right? Nah. This dude missed the memo. He literally uses his last breath to lecture Simon about protecting the family name and making grandbabies. Thanks, Dad. So Simon vows right then and there that he'll never have children, just to get back at his awful father. That decision is gonna cause some major problems later, but we'll get there. Meanwhile, Daphne's fake courtship with Simon is working like magic. Suddenly, guys are everywhere begging for Daphne's attention. The problem is that Anthony, her overprotective brother, is still pushing Lord Bearbrook, the old dude, as her best option. Big brother of the year, everyone. When Daphne refuses, Bearbrook goes full villain mode and threatens to spread rumors that she's a wayward woman unless she marries him immediately. What a gentleman. Over at the Featherington house, the drama's getting spicy. Penelope, the third daughter of the family, discovers that Marina, their cousin who's squatting with them, is pregnant. The father is Sir George Crane, a soldier currently fighting overseas. Marina's head over heels for this guy and keeps rereading his letters like they're scripture. Back to Daphne's mess with old Bearbrook, Lady Violet, her mom, decides she's had enough of this nonsense. So she strikes first and leaks Bearbrook's deepest, darkest secret. Old Bearbrook has a child with a maid, and he refuses to support them. Once that scandal hits the papers, Bearbrook has to flee London in complete disgrace. So long, loser! With him gone, Daphne's finally free to enjoy herself, so she attends a ball where she meets Simon. Simon tells her to call him by his first name. Now, that may sound normal to you, but back in the day, a woman calling a sire by his first name, that was a big deal, people. They lean in close, but Daphne immediately pulls back. She reminds him she's after a husband who wants children and a family. Oh boy, I can already tell this is gonna be a problem.
Whatever is bothering you?
Ouch. So Simon has to let go and watch her dance with other guys. And you can see it on his face. Our guy has caught feelings big time. Moving right along to episode 3, Daphne's having not so innocent dreams about Simon now. Uh-oh. And it's gotten to the point where she's turning down every proposal that comes her way, waiting for her obvious crush to propose. But Simon's not making a move, and time is running out. So Queen Charlotte tries to save the day with a major twist. Prince Friedrich of Prussia, her nephew, arrives in London looking for a wife, and the Queen personally introduces him to Daphne.
This is the young lady I was telling you about, the season's diamond.
So now Daphne's got another rich dude interested in her, but she still can't stop looking for Simon at every party. When other girls start fake fainting to get the prince's attention, yes, that really happens, Daphne and Simon share knowing glances. Like they're the only sane people in the room. Their connection only gets deeper when Simon does something unexpected. During a walk, he starts explaining things about pleasure and touch to Daphne because he's shocked by how little she knows. That night, she takes his advice and touches herself for the first time, all while fantasizing about him. However, reality hits when Lady Danbury confronts Simon. She tells him that Prince Friedrich's about to propose, and if Simon doesn't act fast, then he'll have been leading Daphne on for nothing. So Simon meets Daphne outside a tea shop and tells her they need to end their fake arrangement. That night, Daphne comes down the stairs looking gorgeous and accepts Prince Friedrich's invitation to dance. Well, might as well just say yes to the crown and riches if you can't have the man you love. In our next episode, Friedrich doesn't waste any time claiming his girl. He gives Daphne this stunning diamond necklace at the palace. But as he's putting it on, Daphne's imagining Simon putting it on her instead. Her heart's already made its choice, hasn't it? Lady Whistledown's not snoozing either. She's going on about how Daphne's gotten an upgrade from Duchess to Princess. Meanwhile, Simon's packing to leave England forever because he can't watch the love of his life marry someone else. Lady Danbury tries talking sense into him, bringing up how Queen Charlotte married for love, but Simon's too hurt to listen. Can you blame him? But here's the thing. Daphne's not the only one with boy problems. While she's drowning in royal drama, Lady Featherington is parading Marina in front of older men who need heirs, hoping someone will propose before anyone notices the baby bump. And you can bet that plan's working. I mean, what elderly man doesn't want to marry a hot brunette? But Marina's luck is about to change, just not in the way Lady Featherington planned. At one gathering, just another old-timer closes in, someone actually age-appropriate swoops in to save the day, and it's none other than Colin Bridgerton, Daphne's charming elder brother and the third Bridgerton kid. He asks her to dance, and you can see the sparks just flying between them. And while Marina's happy about her savior, her cousin Penelope is sad. Why? Marina, just set her sights on the one person Penelope's been secretly in love with this whole time. That's tragic. Daphne isn't doing well in the boyfriend department either. Friedrich, her consolation prize and a crown, decides it's proposal time, but the moment he starts proposing, she bolts into the garden and rips off his diamond necklace. Simon follows her to say goodbye before leaving England, and they start arguing. Then, the argument turns into a passionate kiss, of course. Something they shouldn't be doing. It starts getting intense until Big Brother Anthony walks in at the worst possible moment and punches Simon to the ground. He demands that Simon marry Daphne immediately, and Simon refuses. So Anthony does what any protective older brother would do in the 1800s. He challenges Simon to a pistol duel. People were so extra back then. At dawn, the two face off. Simon fires into the air on purpose because he's not trying to hurt Anthony, but Anthony aims straight at Simon. Right at that moment, Daphne comes charging in on a horse like some kind of action hero. The noise startles Anthony and his shot goes off into the air. After the chaos dies down, Daphne drops a bomb. They were spotted by an outsider during their kissing moment, which means she's completely ruined if they don't get married. That's when Simon finally admits his secret. He can't have children. He'll never be able to give her a family. But Daphne makes her own choice. She tells everyone she's choosing Simon, even if it means no children. Episode 5 kicks off with Daphne's and Simon's engagement. Anthony has finally calmed down, and Daphne's mom is over the moon about the engagement. There's just one teeny problem: the Queen. Remember her cousin Friedrich just got publicly dumped in front of all of London society? Yeah, Queen Charlotte is not happy about that. She's the type to hold grudges, and right now, the Bridgertons are at the top of her list. However, after a bunch of groveling and some strategic knee bending, the Queen approves the match. Crisis averted, for now. Fast forward to the wedding day, and the Bridgertons pull out their entire bank account. Daphne's gown is gorgeous. The food is endless. Lady Whistledown is gossiping about every detail, and the two are ready to live happily ever after. Afterwards, Daphne expects her mom to explain what happens on the wedding night, but Violet gives her nothing but vague hints.
In spring, flowers grow.
Super helpful, Mom. Later on their honeymoon trip out of London, bad weather forces the couple to stop at an inn. There, away from prying eyes, the newlyweds finally have their wedding night. Phew! Some cold water, please. The encounter leaves Daphne thinking she's landed herself a loving husband and a fairy tale future. Girl has no idea that it's about to hit the fan. Back in London, Marina's playing a dangerous game. On one hand, she's giving Colin false promises and letting him fall for her. On the other hand, she's sending letters to Sir George Crane, her soldier boyfriend, hoping he'll come back for her. Unknown to her, those letters aren't reaching George. Lady Featherington's been burning them because she doesn't want Marina clinging to false hopes. Back to the Bridgertons, Eloise, Daphne's younger sister, has a sneaky mission of her own, hunting down Lady Whistledown. As a girl who thinks this whole find a husband thing is ridiculous, Eloise is obsessed with this mystery woman who's out here running the gossip game and making her own rules. Meanwhile, Benedict, the second Bridgerton child, attends this artist's party and gets a glimpse of a very different world. What he discovers there is gonna make him question some things about himself, but that's a story for another episode. Up next is episode 6, and let me tell you, the honeymoon phase doesn't last long. Daphne and Simon roll up to Cliveden, which is Simon's fancy estate, and they get the whole Duke and Duchess welcome treatment. Daphne's discovering desire for the first time, so they can barely keep their hands off each other. And everything seems perfect. But here's the catch. She still has zero clue about how pregnancy actually works. Soon enough though, Daphne picks up on something odd. Simon always pulls away at a very specific moment during their, intimate times. She sees the pattern but doesn't understand what it means. Girl needs a biology lesson, stat. So Rose, Daphne's maid, comes to the rescue and drops some knowledge bombs about the birds and the bees. Just like that, Daphne suddenly realizes Simon's whole cannot situation is actually a very deliberate will not. Yup, he's been lying this whole time. What happens next is where things get really controversial.
What did you do?
That night, when Simon's drunk, Daphne uses the oldest trick in the book and makes sure he, can't pull away this time. Oh boy. Now, let's check in on the other disaster unfolding in London. Marina accepts Colin's courtship, calculating that marrying a sweet guy will give her baby a name and safety. Colin, bless his heart, genuinely believes Marina loves him back. He plans a speedy wedding and announces their engagement to his family. But wait, doesn't Colin deserve to know the truth? Well, Penelope thinks so, but she's divided. Knowing Marina's secret, Penelope's terrified that Colin will be heartbroken if he finds out. In episode 7, the couple return to their London townhouse and is having their first marital fight. It even looks cute, if you remove the part where they're sleeping in different bedrooms and staring daggers at each other. Simon's being his usual gentleman self. He promises he'll honor the marriage, but that his revenge against Daddy Dearest is non-negotiable. Meanwhile, back in London, Lady Whistledown strikes again. The woman's like TMZ on steroids. She knows everything. She's already exposed that Marina's engagement is a complete sham. And now everyone in London knows Colin got played like a fool. Colin's not even angry at first. He's just desperately hoping Whistledown made it all up. When Marina admits it's true, you can see his soul leave his body. But that's not the worst part. She tries to soften the blow by saying she holds him in the highest esteem. Yeah, nothing says I love you like being told you're highly esteemed. The poor guy's heartbroken and tells her that if she'd just been honest from the start, he would have married her anyway. That's how genuine his feelings were, and she never even gave him a chance to prove it. Marina doubles down on her choices. She insists she did what she had to do to survive in a world that gives women like her exactly zero options. Fair point, but Colin's romantic heart can't handle that level of cold logic. Meanwhile, Daphne rushes back to see how she can manage the mess. Colin, still hurt from everything that happened, just wants one last chance to talk to Marina face to face and find out why she broke his heart. Lady Featherington refuses at first, but when Daphne offers to supervise the meeting, she finally agrees. Smart move because Daphne can snoop around and listen to the whole story firsthand like she's always wanted. Once Daphne hears everything, she pities her and offers to track down Marina's lover. Now back to Benedict, the Featherington's second child. Remember that artist party we mentioned, where he discovered things that made him question himself? Time to unpack that. At the event, he meets Genevieve Delacroix, the fashion designer behind all of Daphne's stunning dresses, and they end up hooking up. But that's not even the wildest part of his night. Our boy stumbles upon two men kissing at the party, and suddenly, he's rethinking if he's been making out with the right gender. So let's see. Daphne's marriage is a disaster, Colin almost got baby trapped, and now Benedict's having an identity crisis. Will any Bridgerton get their love life right? Welcome to episode 8, the season 1 finale, where everything either falls apart or comes together depending on which Bridgerton you're talking about. After Simon finally opens up about his tragic childhood, Daphne now understands why Simon made his vow. But understanding doesn't magically fix everything. Their marriage is still ice cold. They sit for a portrait at Cliveden, where Daphne asks him to attend the final ball of the season. She's hoping that going back to the Bridgerton's world will fix things between them. Simon says yes, but tells her he still can't give her children. What's more, Simon now wants a polite, distant marriage. Ouch. While Daphne and Simon are stuck in their Cold War, the rest of the Bridgerton family is dealing with their own chaos. Benedict tells Eloise he's been secretly dating Genevieve, the dress lady, and drops some hints about the interesting relationships he saw at that artist party. Anthony surprisingly doesn't freak out or become overprotective about it, which is growth, I guess? Meanwhile, Eloise is still obsessed with figuring out who Lady Whistledown is. She's convinced it's some genius woman hiding in plain sight. I wonder who that could be. As for Marina, she's done with all the London drama, but before she leaves, she gets an unexpected visitor, Sir Philip Crane, her baby daddy's brother. He's got some shocking news and a letter from George himself. Turns out, George planned to marry Marina and claim the baby, but unfortunately, he died in battle. With nothing left for her in London, Marina leaves the Featherington house, planning to raise her baby far away from all the gossip. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, after weeks of fighting for her marriage and planning moments that forces them to act like a real couple, Simon finally agrees to try for a family on his own terms. We'll see what that means. So, congratulations in advance. We've got some good news coming up. In our first episode of season 2, we're picking up with Anthony Bridgerton. Dude was all up in everyone's business last season, telling them who they can and can't marry. Now it's his turn to marry, and yikes, it's not going well. He's still sneaking around patronizing prostitutes instead of courting anyone respectable. But he's a smart kid, so soon enough, he comes up with a plan. Court whoever the queen announces as this season's diamond. Guys, I'm still looking for a nice way to call him dumb, but thankfully Benedict saved me the trouble. He calls the whole thing a ridiculous business contract, but Anthony's not budging on this one. He's determined to avoid the kind of devastating grief that nearly destroyed his mother. What is it with these rich kids and baggage? Anyway, I'll tell you all about that in episode 3. For now, let's gossip about the new kids, the Sharmas. We've got Lady Mary Sharma, her eldest daughter Kate, and her younger half-sister Edwina. Years later, Lady Mary was crowned the queen's favorite, just like Daphne last season. But instead of marrying some rich guy like everyone expected, Mary said nah and married for love. Damn. Ever since then, her family's been kicked out of high society. Fast forward to the queen's presentation, where all the new girls are being introduced to society. Remember how last season Eloise was complaining about having to debut? Well, her time has come and she's killing it.
And Miss Eloise!
Okay, fine, that's a lie. It's a complete disaster, because the girl doesn't even want to get married anyway. Meanwhile, Edwina steps up, and the queen's so impressed that she crowns her as this season's diamond. And guess who's first in line to ask her to dance? Anthony. He's pulling out all the stops, being charming, playing the perfect gentleman, but every time he gets close to Edwina, her sister Kate swoops in to block him. Turns out, she's overheard Anthony earlier saying something despicable.
A pleasing face, an acceptable wit.
And if you think this is bad, it gets even worse at the horse races. In episode 2, Anthony has finally realized that if he wants to get close to Edwina, he's gotta win Kate over first. So he organizes this fancy horse race where he shows off by placing expensive bets and inviting Edwina to cheer him on. When his horse looks like it's gonna lose, Kate can't help herself and bets against him. Big mistake, because even though Anthony's horse loses, he ends up winning something better: Edwina's attention. She respects how he took the defeat and suddenly finds him way more attractive. Baby steps, Anthony, baby steps. Then we cut to the Featheringtons. They are back in the marriage market, but it's even worse this time because their dad has kicked the bucket. And thanks to the lovely laws of the 1800s, everything, the house, the money, all of it, goes to the closest male relative, not the wife or daughters. That's when Jack Featherington shows up, some distant cousin claiming he inherited the estate, but conveniently not the mountain of debt that comes with it. So the Featherington women are about to lose their home unless they figure something out fast. Mama Featherington, being the schemer she is, immediately starts plotting to marry off one of her daughters to Jack so they can keep the house and the family. Across town, the Bridgertons are doing their thing. Colin rolls back home after spending almost a year traveling the world, insisting he's totally over Marina. Sure, buddy, we believe you. Meanwhile, his sister Eloise gets hooked on these radical women's pamphlets after reading Lady Whistledown's stuff, and she starts sneaking off to some sketchy print shop downtown. That's where she bumps into Theo Sharp, this printer's assistant, who's not impressed by her high status. While Eloise is going on about breaking free from society's rules, Theo points out she's only brave because she's got money and a safety net. He's cute, and I'm already shipping them. What do you guys think of Theoise? Too soon? Back to Anthony. His cat and mouse game with Kate is starting to feel like the L word. He keeps trying to convince himself that he feels nothing for Kate, but his lingering stares say otherwise. There's something holding him back though. There's a reason he's so terrified of love, and we're about to find out why in the next episode. Episode 3 takes us back 10 years, where young Anthony follows his father on a hunting trip. On their way back home, Edmund and his father decide to pick lilacs for Lady Violet, Anthony's mom. Then, a bee stings him, and what happens next?
What?
Anthony watches his father die right there. Then his mother falls apart. She's a widow drowning in grief, and on top of that, she's dealing with a super difficult pregnancy. That kind of thing never leaves a kid. So now Anthony's convinced that loving someone means risking that kind of pain all over again. In the present, the Bridgertons head to their country estate, Aubrey Hall, for a house party. At this point, Anthony and Edwina have been seeing each other for a while, so Lady Violet has decided to do some scheming of her own. She plans sports games and outdoor activities to push Anthony into proposing to Edwina. Oh boy. The Sharmas and several town members join them, including, drumroll please, Daphne. Remember that controversial scene from season 1? Well, that resulted in her having a baby named Augie. Anyway, Sister Dear is back and she's ready to get involved. Anthony meddled all up in her love life last season, so now it's her turn to return the favor. Fair is fair, right? Things kick off with a family game of Pall Mall, and Anthony and Kate are doing their usual rivalry thing and competing at every turn. Everything's going well until a bee lands on Kate's chest in the garden. Anthony, reliving his father's death, completely panics and grabs her, thinking she's about to die. When he realizes she's fine, he leans in to kiss her. However, someone interrupts them. This makes Anthony face something he's been running from, his feelings for Kate. He tries to make up for it by focusing all his attention on Edwina for the rest of the evening, but come on. You just can't turn off feelings like that. Meanwhile, Benedict gets some amazing news. He's been accepted to the Royal Academy of Art. The guy's over the moon about studying painting. But there's just one tiny problem he doesn't know about. Anthony secretly donated money to secure his spot. That definitely won't be a problem later. By episode's end, Anthony makes a decision. He's moving forward with Edwina. Kate's feelings be darned. But is this gonna work? I can't wait to find out. In episode 4, we're still at the house party, but more guests have arrived, including the Featheringtons. And of course, they're up to no good. Lady Featherington has cooked up a plan to get Prudence, her daughter, and cousin Jack caught alone together. Back then, if an unmarried man and woman were found alone, they had to marry. She's hoping this will secure their future and keep the Featherington estate in the family, since Jack is set to inherit everything. But the plan backfires because Jack himself is broke. The Featherington estate is the only thing he owns. Here's what happened. Jack told everyone he was rich and owned a mine in America that produced precious stones. Turns out, it's a Ponzi scheme. He was planning to marry some rich woman and run off with her money. Lady Featherington is crushed, but not one to waste a good hustle. She teams up with cousin Jack, and together they start selling fake gems to dumb aristocrats. Back to the love triangle though, during a hunting trip, Anthony and Kate end up alone in the woods. And surprise, surprise, they start arguing again. The problem is, they're doing all this while touching hands and breathing down each other's necks. Things get even messier at the Hearts and Flowers ball when Anthony dances with Edwina, but keeps his eyes locked on Kate the entire time. When the music changes, he ditches Edwina and ends up waltzing with Kate instead. Ouch. Edwina was standing there watching, clearly hurt and confused. I feel so bad for Edwina, but Kate and Anthony just look so good together. Later in the library, Kate and Anthony get into another heated moment. Edwina might not have caught them in the act, but she's not dumb. She can sense Anthony's disinterest, so the next day she starts packing, believing their courtship is over. But something unexpected happens. Anthony rushes outside and proposes to her. Episode 5 kicks off with Anthony trying to bury his feelings for Kate by throwing himself into wedding plans with Edwina. He wants a quiet country wedding, but the Queen is having none of that. She insists on a grand London wedding she can use to prove she still controls the town. Later, Anthony gets cold feet and tells Kate he wants to call off the engagement because it's not fair to anyone. Kate freaks out because this marriage has to happen. Why? Turns out Edwina needs to marry rich to get her dowry from Mary's snobby parents, the Sheffields. That's the whole reason they came to London in the first place. So Kate pushes her feelings aside and forces Anthony to swear he'll go through with it. Speaking of the Sheffields, Lady Danbury hosts this dinner so they can finally meet Anthony. What should have been a nice evening turns into a complete mess when the Sheffields start trashing Mary for her disgraceful love match and throwing shade at Kate for being a stepdaughter. What a bunch of pricks. They continue being rude until they accidentally reveal the dowry deal they made with Kate. Anthony is furious. He rejects the Sheffield dowry on the spot and defends Mary and Kate as his equals. This just makes love emojis shoot out of Edwina's eyes. If Anthony was cute before, he just leveled up to husband material. In episode 6, we're heading to Anthony's grand wedding, proudly sponsored by yours truly, Queen Charlotte. She fills the church with peacocks, plans for fireworks, and a secret agenda. Of course, there's a catch. Our queen didn't just wake up feeling generous, but let's continue the wedding first. As the ceremony begins, Edwina drops a bracelet, and when Anthony and Kate both rush forward, the queen, guests, and even the choir sense something's wrong. During the vows, Anthony hesitates when asked if he takes Edwina as his wife, and that's when Edwina snaps.
Miss Edwina,
Wait a moment.
From then on, it's chaos. The Bridgertons and Sharmas are running around like headless chickens, trying to calm the queen, the archbishop, and about 200 scandalized guests. Good luck with that. Meanwhile, Eloise's secret visits to the print shop catch up with her. Turns out, the queen's secret agenda was to fish out Lady Whistledown. She has been monitoring Eloise's visits to the printers and thought she was the anonymous writer gossiping about everybody. So her plan was to put her on the spot and expose her. But the ruined ceremony scattered her plans. After everything calms down a bit, Anthony and Kate meet alone in the chapel. Kate admits that the second they step outside those church doors, reality comes crashing back. The scandal, the consequences, all the pain they've caused. She's not ready to face it yet, so she just wants one more moment before everything falls apart. She steps forward. Anthony meets her halfway, and they finally kiss in the church. After weeks of denying themselves what they truly want, they finally crossed the line they swore they wouldn't cross. Except their timing couldn't be more terrible, because the worst is still ahead. Moving right along to episode 7, we're dealing with the aftermath of the wedding disaster. Publicly, they're saying the ceremony ended by mutual agreement over some private matter. Privately, Edwina's heartbroken, Kate's drowning in guilt, and Anthony's stuck between duty, desire, and the giant mess he created. Fun times for everyone. To show they're unbothered, the families decide to attend a ball together as one big "we're fine" statement. But no one's buying it, so they decide to wait for things to die down on their own, and it does for a bit. But that's when Lady Whistledown strikes again. She releases a gossip column mocking Queen Charlotte and blaming her for the failed wedding. Bold move, Whistledown. Charlotte is furious. She goes full detective mode, hunting down the author like her life depends on it. And guess who ends up in her crosshairs? Eloise. Those little trips to the print district aren't looking so innocent anymore. Eloise realizes she's in deep trouble. Her reputation could be toast, and worse, her activism might drag her entire family down with her. But surprisingly, a new issue is released exposing Eloise's secret meetings with Theo Sharp, the printer's assistant. The scandal sheet reveals she's been visiting him alone without a chaperone. So the queen stops suspecting Eloise of being Lady Whistledown. She figures Eloise was just sneaking off to see some guy she has a crush on, not running a gossip empire. However, the outcome is terrible for the Bridgertons, and they get even more isolated. Meanwhile, Lady Featherington and Cousin Jack push ahead with their fake gemstone scheme. They're hosting balls, selling non-existent company shares, and to keep the profits nice and cozy within the household, she and Jack decide to rush his engagement to Prudence, her daughter. By episode's end, Kate is completely guilt-ridden. She feels responsible for the ruined wedding and the family tension. It's all too much for her. To get peace of mind, she rides out at dawn. Bad timing though, because rain starts pouring down. The horse freaks out, and Kate is thrown to the ground, and she hits her head on a rock. No! In our season 2 finale, we pick up immediately after Kate's riding accident. Anthony finds her unconscious, soaked, and barely breathing in the middle of nowhere. The moment he lifts her in his arms, denial officially leaves the chat. This man is hopelessly in love with her. Meanwhile, the Featherington storyline reaches is its own finale. Mama Featherington and Jack host this glittering ball to sell more shares in their fake gemstone mines. However, during the party, one of the precious gems falls and immediately shatters on the floor. Since a real gem wouldn't break easily like that, everyone discovers it's a scam. Uh-oh. Sensing disaster, Lady Featherington sacrifices Jack to save her own skin. She makes him sign the estate back to her, then publicly paints him as a fortune hunter who deceived them all. Jack flees to America and she keeps the house. Not bad for a day's work. Elsewhere, Penelope and Eloise finally collide. Eloise has been hunting Lady Whistledown for a while now, and the piece has finally been pieced together. She can't believe her best friend could print such brutal things about her. So, she ends their friendship. That's the first thing Penelope loses, but trust me, there's more to come. Later at a ball, when she's being her usual wallflower, she overhears Colin saying something hurtful about her, which makes things even worse.
I would never dream of courting Penelope Featherington.
In the closing moments of the season, she realizes Whistledown is the only thing she has going for her, and she's keeping it. It's her power, her voice, and the one thing that's actually hers. Fast forward months later, Anthony and Kate are happily married, racing horses, playing pal-mal, and kissing in the garden. The Viscount finally lives as a man in love, not just the title he inherited. In the first episode of the third season, we're jumping back months after Penelope overheard Colin telling his friends he never court her. That rejection stung hard, but Pen has moved on. She's done shamelessly crushing after Colin and is ready to find any husband who will help her escape her family. Now, I don't know how that's gonna work out for her because Colin is back from vacation looking like a snack. He's got the wardrobe, the swagger, and suddenly everyone in London wants a piece of him. And just when you think Pen's had enough, it gets worse. Eloise, her ex-bestie, is now best friends with Cressida Cowper, a girl who bullied them both for years. Someone please check on Pen. We'll see how this messy friendship plays out later, but for now, let's pay attention to Queen Charlotte. This year, the almighty queen is tired of everyone begging her to name a favorite maiden, so she decides to ignore them and leave the position vacant. No diamond this year. And you know what else is brand new in London? The Mondridges. Now, let me introduce you to this family real quick. Will Mondridge and his wife Alice are working class folks who've been scraping by living hand to mouth. They run a boxing club where rich people come to watch fights for entertainment. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. But then everything changes overnight. Alice's great aunt passes away, and the aunt never had kids of her own. So she decides to leave her entire fortune to Alice's son. Lucky for them, the boy's not 18 yet, which means Will and Alice have to manage this massive pile of wealth until he comes of age. So overnight, they go from barely getting by to handling a huge estate and more money than they've ever seen in their lives. This obviously comes with a truckload of issues, but we'll check that out in episode 2. Now to the main event. At Lady Danbury's ball, Penelope debuts her new look. She wears a green gown, has a new hairstyle, and she looks hot. But then disaster strikes. Cressida, the bully, intentionally rips her dress in front of everyone, humiliating her. Now, that's just messed up. That's Colin's wake-up call. He finally notices how terribly the town treats Penelope. Feeling guilty about his careless words last season, he offers to help her gain confidence and attract a husband. Pen hesitates because relying on Colin again feels dangerous, but she agrees because she's desperate for a way out. Moving right along to episode 2, Colin and Penelope's private lessons have kicked off. He's teaching her stuff like posture, how to keep a conversation going, and making eye contact without looking like a deer caught in headlights. Meanwhile, the Mondridge family is having a rough time adjusting to their new noble life. Will is being forced to give up his boxing club to run the estate, which sucks because boxing was his whole thing. His wife Alice hates that they have to sleep in separate bedrooms now, and she's worried they're losing all the closeness that made their life special. Anyways, Penelope has had a taste of the good stuff now, but then Lady Whistledown just has to go and ruin everything by writing about how Colin's been spending time with that broke Featherington girl. Ouch. So Pen decides, you know what, screw it. She's got nothing to lose at this point. So she goes up to Colin and asks for just one kiss so she knows what it feels like. Let's just say Colin takes that request very seriously. In episode 3, Colin wakes up from a dream about Penelope and he's freaking out internally. He keeps replaying their kiss and realizes he's way more into it than he wants to admit. He tries telling himself it was just practice, but come on buddy, we all know that's not true. On the other hand, Penelope thinks Colin regrets everything, so she just adds him to her list of exes. Time to find a real husband now. now. And wouldn't you know it, Lord Debling steps up. Penn starts hanging out with him at parties and garden walks. Debling's whole vibe is nature documentaries and saving animals, and he's upfront about wanting a wife who's cool with staying home while he's off exploring jungles or whatever. Penelope just wants a peaceful life and her own home, so they actually seem like a solid match. Meanwhile, Benedict's got his own thing going on with Lady Tilly Arnold, this widow who wants to jump his bones. But back to the main drama, Colin can't lie to himself anymore. Penelope might say yes to Debling any day now, and he's sitting there, realizing he got feelings way too late. The question is, will he actually do something about it before she's engaged to someone else? In our next episode, Colin is miserable. His jealousy over Debling has finally forced him to admit, at least to himself, that he loves Penelope. He keeps trying to tell her, but he can't get the words out. Benedict teases him about it, and even Big Brother Anthony steps in with some advice. And if anyone's qualified to chip in, it's Anthony. The guy spent an entire season running from his feelings for Kate, and look how that turned out. Around them, everyone else in London is dealing with their own stuff. The Mondridges are trying to figure out if being noble is even worth it. Will misses his boxing club and his friends, while Alice is worried their kids are going to grow up as spoiled brats who only care about looking fancy. Meanwhile, Eloise is still not speaking to Penelope and throws herself into helping Cressida. She encourages Cressida to read, think, and imagine life beyond being someone's wife. LOL. That energy is lost on Cressida. Soon enough, the next big event rolls around. Queen Charlotte plans a fancy ball, and Debling seizes this opportunity to plan his proposal. But he notices something between Penn and Colin, so rather than trap her in a loveless marriage, he does the honorable thing and backs out before proposing. Forget flowers. Give this man a freaking garden. Penelope is shattered, blaming Colin for scaring him off. She flees the party in embarrassment, convinced she's lost both her safest option and the man she loves. Colin, done running from his feelings, chases after her carriage through the night. At last, Colin confesses his feelings, and before you check out what happens next, you might want to distract the kids for a minute. The episode opens with Colin and Penelope arriving at Bridgerton house in the middle of the night, because apparently their engagement news couldn't wait until breakfast. Most of the family is thrilled, but Eloise storms out. She knows Penn is Lady Whistledown and believes Colin is in love with a version of Penn that isn't fully honest with him. The next morning, the Featheringtons first hear about the engagement not from their daughter Penelope, but from Lady Whistledown's latest issue. Queen Charlotte reads this issue and immediately notices something's off. Whistledown's usual sharp tongue is weirdly tame. Sensing weakness, she decides it's the perfect time to flesh out this anonymous writer once and for all. She offers a £5,000 reward to anyone who can prove Whistledown's identity, turning the entire town into a bunch of amateur detectives playing Clue. Across town, Cressida's dealing with her own personal nightmare. Her father has arranged a marriage for her with one Lord Greer. And I'm not big on judging looks, but this guy is old, joyless, and controlling. He straight up announces that once they're married, she'll only wear drab colors, attend almost no balls, and spend her life popping out kids. Cressida is genuinely terrified, and she realizes her only escape route is money and independence. That's when the Queen's £5,000 bounty starts looking real attractive. Her brilliant plan? Either unmask the real Whistledown or just fake it till she makes it. What could possibly go wrong? Back to Colin and Penelope's engagement ball, where things are about to get messy. Eloise gives Penn an ultimatum. Tell Colin the truth by midnight or she will. As time runs down, Penelope panics, but before she can confess, Cressida raises a glass and publicly declares herself to be Lady Whistledown. In episode 6, the Queen summons Cressida to court. Time to put your money where your mouth is, Cressida. If she's truly Whistledown, she must prove it by producing a fresh column. Cressida and her domineering mother scramble to throw together a convincing pamphlet, desperately trying to copy Whistledown's signature style, but it's still missing that special sauce. Queen Charlotte immediately senses something is off, though she publicly continues entertaining Cressida's claim, for now. Penelope watches all this unfold with mixed feelings. On one hand, letting Cressida take the fall would permanently protect her own identity and her engagement. But it also means another young woman could get ruined for things Penn wrote. That's when Penn's mom unexpectedly opens up about her miserable marriage to Mr. Featherington. She tells Penn she shouldn't throw away the rare combination of love and security she's found with Colin. For the first time ever, mom and daughter are actually being real with each other. And Penn even considers burying Whistledown for good. We then cut to Benedict. As the second Bridgerton son, he's got way more freedom than Anthony, and he's definitely taking advantage of it. He's moved on from dating Genevieve Delacroix to Lady Tilly Arnold, who invites him to dinner and offers to have a threesome with him and another young lover she's got. Benedict freezes up and bolts out of there, but something tells me this won't be the last time we hear about Lady Tilly. Back to the Whistledown chaos, Penelope and Eloise, now aligned on at least one thing, are furious that Cressida is using Whistledown as a shield and social ladder. Penn decides to write one last, real pamphlet exposing Cressida as a fraud, taking back her own voice. That night, she sneaks away to her printer, thinking Colin is somewhere else. But Colin, feeling uneasy about everything, secretly follows her carriage and finds out she's Whistledown. Well, so much for keeping secrets. Episode 7 kicks off right where we left off. Colin confronts Penn, and he is not happy. He throws Whistledown's cruelest lines back at her, especially one recent dig claiming he does not know himself. Ouch. Penn tries to explain that she started writing out of loneliness and powerlessness, and that her harsh words were meant to push him into becoming the kinder man she knew he could be. Not sure that defense is landing, Penn. To calm him down, she promises to give up Whistledown, but the half-finished pages in her desk show how hard it is to kill that part of herself. At the same time, Cressida starts investigating. After visiting several print shops and hearing about a mysterious red-haired client, she puts two and two together. The real Whistledown is a lower status young woman with that hair color, so she starts suspecting Penelope. On the flip side, Benedict goes back to Tilly and enters his bad boy era, fully embracing the three-way relationship that was offered. But back to the wedding everyone's been waiting for. Despite everything, Colin and Penelope go through with the wedding. Colin is still wounded, Penn feels caged, and the queen is watching them like a hawk. She figures out the real writer is probably close to the Bridgertons, given how much they show up in those pamphlets. So she calls them out in front of everyone, threatening serious consequences if the culprit doesn't step forward. The finale starts with the spotlight shining on someone pretty unexpected. Maybe it's all those reading lessons Eloise gave her, but Cressida's way sharper now. She shows up at Penn's doorstep and demands £10,000 in exchange for her silence, so she can escape her awful father and avoid being shipped off to some aunt in the countryside. Penelope's mom also stumbles in and is shocked to learn that the ignored daughter has secretly funded the family and shaped the town's gossip pages. The shock doesn't last long though. Portia's street smart enough to know that if this news gets out, it'll destroy their entire family. So they call in Eloise and Colin for an emergency brainstorming session. First plan, have Colin negotiate with Cressida. He goes to talk her down, but that's a big mistake. Cressida doubles the blackmail to £20,000. Alright, plan B then. Penelope decides to take the boldest move possible. She goes straight to the queen in front of everyone and confesses to being Whistledown. Impressed by her guts and still secretly entertained by those gossip sheets,
What is life without a little gossip?
Queen Charlotte grants her mercy on one condition: Whistledown must retire forever. Colin stands beside Penn through all of it, choosing her whole, messy, complicated self over the simpler fantasy of an obedient wife. In the flash-forward epilogue, they're happily married, parents to the new Lord Featherington, and both published authors under their own names. Penn has put Whistledown to rest for good, and now writes openly as herself. As for Cressida, she's been quietly sent off to the countryside. We never actually see where she ends up, but it's probably as a governess to some bratty kid, or worse. Married to Lord Greer, who's like 147 years old, out of sight, out of mind, whatever. And it's a wrap on our favorite Tinder show from the 1800s. Personally, I loved Anthony's love story the most. Don't forget to drop a like and check out the video on screen while you're here.